Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Well, you would have heard this proverb time and again. Now we have a real-life example of how it works. We are talking about China's relationship with Iran. Beijing actually went on to put all its eggs in one basket. It antagonized the Arabs, Israel, and even Russia for one particular target, Iran. Iran and China did not share very close ties till only recently, and once they came close, China seemed ready to focus entirely on the Shi'ite nation as a part of its West Asia strategy. So, why did China put all its eggs in one basket, and how did it backfire? And what will China do now? Will it persist with Iran or scrap its complicated relationship with the country for once and for all? Iran and China are both increasingly becoming pariah states. Internationally, they are emerging as untouchable rogue states who have some very devious plans. As such, they made for a good couple, but like any relationship, cracks have begun developing and China is beginning to lose patience already. Hi and welcome, this is TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I am your host Sanbir Ranhotra, and in this video I will tell you how China's West Asia plans and the communist nation leveraging Iran are not going as per its plan. Let's begin. China and Iran have shared an intricate relationship for the past many years, and it all revolves around the Iran nuclear deal, or what is formally referred to as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or the JCPOA. If Iran and the US move closer to a nuclear deal, China gets to invest in Iran and increase its own influence in West Asia. But if the JCPOA negotiations fall apart, Beijing has to move away from Tehran. Till now, China was being patient about the Iran nuclear deal and its own relationship with the Shi'ite nation. China was ready to play the waiting game for Iran. However, the continuing uncertainty around the JCPOA has now frustrated the Chinese, due to which Beijing's patience might be running thin. In fact, it seems that after years of a complicated relationship, China may finally break up with Iran. When it comes to Iran, Russia maintains a decades-old relationship with the Shiite country, but the relationship between Iran and China is relatively new. It was only after Obama finalized a flawed JCPOA with Tehran in July 2015 that China and Iran signed an agreement to expand bilateral cooperation. Xi was one of the world leaders who had overwhelmingly supported Obama's JCPOA. The Iran nuclear deal gave Iran a lot of leverage over the Arabs, and China wanted to ride on this leverage for serving its own interests in West Asia. In fact, China did play a role in getting the JCPOA finalized, and even Barack Obama had thanked Xi Jinping for China's role in the nuclear deal. After the Iran nuclear deal came into force, China invested heavily in Iran. However, former US President Donald Trump shredded the Iran nuclear deal in 2018. To make things worse for Tehran and Beijing, Trump imposed some really tough sanctions on Iran. This was a bolt from the blue for China, as it was forced to limit economic engagement with the Shiite nation. Several Chinese companies, which were found to violate the sanctions while importing oil from Iran, got blacklisted by the US. Trump's Iran sanctions meant that China had to unwillingly reduce investments in Iran. However, Beijing continued to push for the revival of the Iran nuclear deal while criticizing the US for unilaterally scrapping JCPOA. China again became hopeful about the revival of the Iran nuclear deal after Joe Biden came to power. Joe Biden is the former lieutenant of Barack Obama, and therefore he was expected to vindicate Obama by reinvigorating the Iran nuclear deal. In fact, China got so excited about Biden's election that it rushed to sign a 25-year cooperation agreement with Iran, under which it will spend $400 billion in the Shiite country as a consideration for a secure supply of oil to boost China's growing economy. With its massive investments in Iran, China wanted to dump Russia and the Arabs and fulfill its oil supply needs wholly out of the Shiite nation. However, Iran is nothing less than a roller coaster ride. Just when China thought that it can extract oil out of Iran, the Shiite nation went to polls. The recently concluded presidential elections in Iran brought awful news for China. Hassan Rouhani, Iran's moderate president who wanted to finalize the Iran nuclear deal, got replaced by Ibrahim Raisi, who is an ultra-conservative. Raisi supports Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's nuclear ambitions and has no interest in reviving the JCPOA. He has chosen Hossein Amir-Abdollahian as his foreign minister, who is again a hardliner allied with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and therefore unlikely to support the nuclear deal. With Raisi in power, Forget any scope of the US lifting sanctions on Iran. In fact, with bilateral relations between the US and Iran deteriorating even further, you can expect more American sanctions getting imposed on the Shi'ite nation, which will jeopardize China's interests in the country. The fact remains that China had chosen Iran over the Arabs and Israel as a part of its West Asia strategy. However, China's strategy of backing Iran has backfired badly. Arabs and Israel have consolidated their power in the Middle East by signing normalization agreements called Abraham Accords, and Iran has been made to turn to the negotiating table by the Arabs. China itself has realized that befriending Iran was a blunder. Supporting the Shi'ite nation after the JCPOA was scrapped by Trump was an even bigger blunder for China, which has backfired spectacularly. And now, as Beijing's patience runs thin, it might even break up with Iran.